No matter how dark things seem to be, or how desperate it seems, there is something you should know. Let the love of God still flows. God answers prayer, and you to know He's always there. When you stand in faith and pray, believing, trust in God and you start receiving, to know how much He cares. God answers, oh God answers prayer.
Jeremiah 33:3 says, "Call unto me, and I will answer thee, and I will show thee great and mighty things thou knowest not."
Join us now to hear great and mighty things that have happened in the lives of people who have been changed through our Lord Jesus as they share their testimonies of how God answers prayer.
Well, praise the Lord and welcome today to God Answers Prayer. I'm your host for today, Ted Gonzalez, and we have a great woman of God on today's program. Before I tell you about our guest, we want to share our scripture for the day for the book of Hebrews. Gives us some wonderful scriptures, and that is the book that we're looking at today. From chapter 11, verse 6 in Hebrews, the Lord tells us, "But without faith it is impossible to please Him. For who comes to God must believe that He is, and that He is a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him." On today's God Answers Prayer, we have Sara Money. She's the director and developer of Money and Me, a financial literacy educational system designed for low-income adults. They also provide training, technology, and tools for organizations that help low-income people take control of their money. Sara will be talking about how Money and Me began, what some of the challenges are, and her vision for the future. You're going to love today's program, and I know that based on the information that you received today, you may be able to share that with others that could use this wonderful educational tools that Sara has put together with Money and Me. But before we begin, we've got a great song from our own Mike Baca, the Bolo Boys. This is Wings of the Wind.
In a city of precious stones, through the gates of pearl, down the streets of gold. It's a brand new world, no more crying, no more killing, no more dying, only living. We'll be riding on the wings of the wind, on the wings of the wind, on a sea of glass. The first will be the last. The tree of life will bloom, and we will eat the fruit ever after. No more sorrow, only laughter. For tomorrow we'll be riding on the wings of the wind, on the wings of the wind. We'll go riding on the wings of the wind. We'll go riding on the wings of the wind. We'll go riding on the wings of the wind. We'll go riding on the wings of the wind. We will sing and dance, play our instruments in the New Jerusalem. All creation praises Him, all the angels up in heaven are rejoicing, for they know that we'll be riding on the wings of the wind, on the wings of the wind. We'll go riding on the wings of the wind.
Well, praise the Lord. That was Mike Baca, our very own, and great song here on God Answers Prayer. We want to thank you for joining us today. I want to welcome our guest, Sara Money, who is with the organization. She's the director and developer, actually, of Money and Me. And Sara, God certainly gave you a name that led to the organization that you lead now, and it is from all I've read and the information I've seen, you're doing an awesome job, and one that so many people really need help with. But before we talk about Money and Me, you want to share just briefly how you came to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ?
Absolutely. Looking back, I see God obviously has always been with me and protecting me and guiding me, but I actually didn't come to know him till in my late 20s, and
Okay.
to have the relationship. And it started with a church outreach doing picnics in the park. And
Okay.
my mom was part of this outreach program, and she had been faithfully praying for me. And she kept inviting me every month. It was once a month. We're doing a potluck in the park. Why don't you come on in? I don't know those people. No, I don't think I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
And then I just decided to go, and you meet the people, and great people. They invited me to go to church,
Yeah.
and I started attending, and that was in 1998, so 20 years.
Okay.
And just never looked back. And so it's been certainly a walk of faith, a personal relationship with him, and then this
Yeah.
Money and Me program has come into be that we'll be talking about.
Right.
So it's been 20 years. And so when people look at outreaches, it can be so simple as just a potluck in the park.
Yeah, that's so
And
true.
so when churches are looking at how can we reach people, just fellowship, inviting people, because sometimes I didn't feel comfortable going into a church,
Yeah.
but then going to a neighborhood park and starting to meet the people,
Sure.
that, God works through everything. And so
Didn't hurt to have a praying mom.
it didn't hurt to have a praying mom, that is for sure.
But that's that is neat to look at, because so many times for people that don't know the Lord, it's not natural for them to just want to walk into church where
No.
everybody else is worshiping and listening to a message from a preacher, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's good for us to remember that first we need to show them the love of Christ and
Yes.
be able to go out to places that maybe they might have an interest in.
Right.
And then God does his thing. So
And it doesn't have to cost a lot. Outreach, I know that some churches, yes, you want to put it in your budget and how can you be
Right.
helpful, but just getting your members together to do a potluck in the park and
Yeah.
inviting non-believers just to come play on the playground with other kids, and bring your own kids.
Yeah.
That, it's simple but effective.
just enjoy some time with another
Exactly.
person, and then
Exactly.
God gives you that opportunity to share
Yes.
about his son. Well, you know what I think is another neat thing about your organization is that you are working here in Albuquerque, and you've lived here all your life, or you're from here. And,
Yes.
and that's awesome, because a lot of times people come in from out of the state, and certainly with skills and talents, but when you come from a place and you know the people and you know the changes that have taken place over the years, I think God helps a person like that to really work with the people.
Yes.
And so speaking of what you've been working with, how did Money and Me begin?
Money and Me began in 2008 when I became director of Love Inc., Love in the Name of Christ Ministry. And Love Inc. received a grant to help low-income people manage their money more effectively. And naively I thought, okay, how hard is this going to be? We have willing people to teach, volunteers.
Right.
We got the money to what I thought was just purchase curriculum, and we had churches to be able to host programs. What I didn't realize is that although there are a lot of great money management programs out there, they were written for people that in a sense already have money. So when you think about it, you have the
Yeah.
Dave Ramseys, you have the
That's
Crown
right.
Financial.
Sure.
You have some wonderful tools.
Right.
But when you're working with someone in a survival mode, maybe
Yeah.
they're on disability, maybe they're on financial assistance, receiving food stamps, they're not talking retirement. They're not talking even the word vacation. They're babysitting is not an expense, it's an income.
Yeah.
And so it's a different
Yeah.
way of thinking.
It's a total different audience than the Dave Ramseys are talking to. I would venture to
Absolutely.
say that the people you're working with, you say about getting out of credit card debt, they might not even have credit cards.
Yeah, and I'll get to
Okay.
that. Yes.
Okay.
So my background is actually psychology and counseling.
Wow.
I got my bachelor's at the University of New Mexico. I got my master's at Webster's University, actually the campus here.
Okay.
And my master's is in counseling. I worked for the state of New Mexico doing income support, so I did food stamps, I did welfare. And then I became director at Love Inc., and I'm working with low-income people there. And so I looked online all over for a curriculum that would work, and I couldn't find one. And I had this money from the grant, and we needed to use it or lose it, you
Sure.
know, as grants are.
Right, right.
So I began creating my own program, and I started with a simple budget worksheet. So like I said, we don't talk about retirement, but you know, or vacations, and I began with focus groups, and I had low-income people come into the office, and I would question them, how are you spending your money? What do you call it? So I found out that they do take vacations, but they're called out-of-town trips. They go
Okay.
out of town, they didn't budget for it, they don't have gas for the car,
Wow.
but they go out of town, you
Yeah.
know, going to Gallup, going to Mexico,
Right,
Colorado,
right.
usually day trips.
But it's something that they really haven't planned for.
Yes.
Okay.
You talked about credit cards. This came to me actually in year 2 or 3 of development, but I was teaching a class one day and I said, how many of you have debt? Raise your hands. And I just got these blank stares and I was like, what?
Huh.
And I said,
That's interesting.
how many of you owe money?
Yeah.
And suddenly I said to a pawn shop, a payday loan, a friend or family member,
Right.
and the hand shot up, oh yeah, we owe money.
Yeah.
And so you have to start looking at what is the language of the low-income people and make sure that you are talking in their language.
Okay.
And so what started with a basic budget worksheet has now evolved into an entire curriculum.
Wow.
And the activities in there, I use a lot of graphics, but just the basic budget worksheet. We do 10 categories. We don't talk about debt, but we talk about money owed. We don't talk about dry cleaning, but we talk about laundry. If a person doesn't have their own washer and dryer, and most low-income people don't, they have to budget
Yeah.
for laundry.
Yeah. Going to the laundromat every so often takes a little bit of money.
Oh,
You
it
know,
does. So we talk about savings. Why should you save? What
Okay.
is important to save for? What is a need versus a want? When I was going to do home visits at Love Inc., I would see many people with a large screen TV, but no food or furniture. And they were renting to own.
Sure.
How much are they spending a year on something they purchase regularly? So I have them identify something they purchase, maybe it's every day. I use the example of cigarettes at $7 a pack, and I teach them the formula. If they're purchasing cigarettes every day at $7 a pack, that's $2,555 a year just on cigarettes.
Just on cigarettes.
And so then other activities, are you a saver or a spender? What did you learn from your parents? So we look at their past. What are they currently doing? What do they want to change? We do something on smart shopping. I was surprised how many people didn't understand price per ounce. So we talk about being a smart shopper.
Wow. Getting into the nitty gritty about what items cost, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I'm curious. How, for those, let's say, that are receiving food stamps, do you consider that cash? Do they
Yes.
consider it cash, or is it just Tell me about that.
Great question. If they are getting food stamps, when we get to the budget part, we want them to write down how much they're receiving in food stamps because that is income.
Okay.
If they are in a position that they're trying to increase their income, at some point, those food stamps, they will no longer be eligible for them, but they have to know how much they were receiving.
Okay.
So they know how much to put in their budget when.
So that's a pretty
get-
significant dilemma for someone, let's say for a period of 2 years or so, has been receiving food stamps. Then they're ready to go, they're offered a job.
Yes.
It's paying a certain amount and they think this is great.
Yes.
But then there's a reduction in their food stamps and now they may actually have less coming in for the family.
Potential other benefits. It's called the cliff effect.
Okay.
And so that's, to me, a systems change that needs to be looked at more at a government level. This is
okay.
a program.
Yeah.
But what happens with the cliff effect is exactly what you said. People are getting so much in assistance, and they might be getting financial assistance, daycare, food stamps, and then they start to earn money, and they're working really hard, and their food stamps, the daycare, and the financial assistance goes away.
Right.
But they were actually earning more on the benefits than when they start working.
You hear that a lot.
And they're all taken away. So to me, if the government is looking for some changes, I would graduate it. You know, instead of losing everything all at once,
Sure.
is
No, that makes
you know,
sense.
let us do your daycare for one more year while you
Right.
get on your feet. And so they don't have that to worry about. Or let us adjust something, but don't take it all away because then
Yeah.
they might go quit their job because it was more beneficial, financially beneficial, to be on assistance than to be working full-time at a minimum wage job.
Do you find that in a way this is like an almost unwanted restriction that's placed on someone where they say, well, I can't take that job because I've got to look for something maybe where they're going to just pay me cash or something like that? Does it ever come into play or I mean,
Yeah, individually, there's so many situations.
Sure.
Yeah, and so to try and figure out what's going to make sense.
Uh-huh.
And so many times they're not thinking long term, so they're looking at the short term gain,
Right.
and we want them to look at both to see
Right.
what's going to be the best
because
in the long run.
really for people in the low income, it's really a week-to-week situation for their finances, right?
Yes, yes.
And as we all know, even those that maybe have been working with a job for a long period of time, you can have some impactful situations in a person's life. The car breaks down.
Yes.
You haven't budgeted for that, and then what are
Yes.
you going to do?
Right.
And then it has a domino effect because if you can't get to
Exactly.
work because your car broke down,
Right.
it's just one thing after another.
And so many times people then go do those payday loans. Do you know what the interest rate is on those?
I've heard that they're astronomical.
It could go from 300 to 800%
Oh,
in
my
our
gosh.
country.
Wow.
And so once a person takes out one of those loans,
Sure.
it's almost impossible.
Yeah. Just
to
becomes
get back.
another monthly payment that they never get over.
And,
Yeah.
and at 300%, that's crazy. So some employers, and there's some more organizations that are trying to work with employers to be able to have the employer do a loan that might be less than $1,000, but could help them with that car repair
Sure.
at 30% interest, which still seems high when to middle income people, like, oh my gosh, 30%, but
Yeah.
compared to 300%,
Right.
and then they would just automatically take it out of the person's payroll deduction just to help them. And so that's another thing that some organizations are starting to do that will be beneficial, but
I
right
see.
now it's unfortunate.
Well, tell us about some of the organizations that utilize Money and Me.
So Money and Me has grown to 7 states,
Okay.
which has been great. And what I'm finding is the most likely customers are nonprofits who are mission-minded to help low-income people take control of their money. So I've worked with crisis pregnancy centers, many churches. I have the Christian edition. I also have a secular version for organizations that would like that. And there's scripture sprinkled throughout. I've My funnest class, the most creative, was for the federal government working with returning citizens. And everybody had an ankle bracelet on.
That's amazing.
That was a lot of fun. But
You're
I've
able
also-
to do that even though scriptures are
Well, I
part.
used what I call the WOW version, which
Okay.
was my words of wisdom.
Okay.
And it's the intent of the scripture behind it without necessarily the reference.
Okay. Okay.
I've also done for businesses. I had a healthcare organization that wanted to offer it for all their low-income employees as part of their orientation to the program. I see the potential at all of our Walmarts, at all of the hotels, housekeeping people that are working at gas stations.
Right.
Any large organization that would like to help their employees manage their money more effectively and actually become better employees can utilize it.
That's great.
And so I've had some prisons look at it. I haven't, it hasn't actually happened yet at the prison level, but the potential is there.
Yeah,
And then I have
absolutely.
a community college in Illinois that's using it with all their GED students, and they're doing it in one of their classes
Okay.
every semester.
Wow.
So.
And so when someone goes through the program, uses the workbook, what are some of the changes that you see?
So because I'm a counselor, I take this from a behavior change standpoint.
That makes sense.
So talking about the price per ounce, doing laundry,
Yeah.
all of those things. And the very last activity we have people do is choose one behavior they want to change. And if they can just change one thing about themselves, it has the impact to change their life. So I've seen people stop smoking.
Okay.
I've seen them stop gambling.
Sure.
One of the aha moments that we have is when they add up how much it's costing them a year. You know, people don't realize it's costing $2,000 a year for smoking cigarettes.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. Then
Yeah.
they go, oh, maybe that's something I want to change about
Sure.
myself. We had one woman who just stopped renting movies every day and buying chips and soda at her convenience store, save $400 a month just by changing
Just
that habit.
that's
And
that's a car payment, you know.
It
I mean,
is.
for a nice
Yes.
car.
Yes.
It's a few payments. Well, listen, we've run out of time on this segment. When we come back, I want to hear about if one of the things you try to change for low-income people is trying to borrow all the time. You know, that sounds like it might be something that could be a potential problem. But we've got another song from Mike Baca. This is Give Cheerfully, which is very appropriate for today's topic. And then we're going to come back and learn some more from Sara, so don't go away.
Give, pressed down and shaken together. You will see that it's true. Yes, it's true. When you give with good measure, so shall it be given unto you. God loves a cheerful giver. Let all things be done with charity, not grudgingly or of necessity. God loves it when we give cheerfully. So give, pressed down and shaken together. You will see that it's true. Yes, it's true. When you give with good measure, so shall it be given unto you. God shall supply. God shall supply all your needs. You don't have to worry about tomorrow. When you let the Holy Spirit lead, you won't have to beg, steal, or borrow. So give, press down and shaken together. You will see that it's true. Yes, it's true. When you give with good measure, so shall it be given unto you. So shall it be given unto you. so shall it be given unto you. Give cheerfully.
Another great song from Mike Baca here on God Answers Prayer. I want to thank you for joining us today. And I mean, if you just joined this one segment, listen, you want to get a pencil and a paper because there's some information that our guest is presenting today that I know is going to be helpful maybe to yourself, but for sure somebody that you know, maybe a friend or a family member. We're visiting with Sara Money, who's the director and developer of Money and Me. And Sara, you talked about a workbook in the system that you've put together after looking all over the place to try to find something that helps people with their budgets that are in a low-income situation. But it's really part of an entire process and system that you've developed. So share with us a little bit more about what else is available in this system.
Absolutely. So the workbook is just one of the tools for participants, and it's full of activities. The other thing is when you want to help low-income people, you want to give them the tools to be successful. So I always think about if I was to ask you to plant a garden, and I didn't give you seeds, a shovel, or water, but I said, oh, just go plant a garden, how successful are you going to be? Yeah. So if I tell you, I want you to develop a budget, but I don't give you the tools, then how successful are you going to be? So one of the things that we want to do is low-income people are typically organizationally challenged. So anything we can do to help them with organization is great. This is a receipt organizer. Then we also offer 10 envelopes because we teach the cash envelope system.
That's great.
We have a notepad just to record the expenses. And Money and Me is being translated into Spanish and will be ready next month. That's an exciting thing. And then a mechanical pencil. You know, you think about when you're starting to develop your budget, you need to be able to erase and rewrite and make adjustments. And so this is the tools for the participants. The other thing is, as I was developing the program, and I'm working with volunteers from churches, and later it's grown to other organizations, I wanted something that was simple and could keep the quality of the program together. And I developed 6 PowerPoint presentations. And so the trainer can point and click, and it walks them through all the activities.
That's great.
It's visually appealing to the participants to keep them engaged. And so there are 6 hours of PowerPoints, and organizations sometimes do this as a one-day workshop. Sometimes they'll do it for 6 weeks, 1 hour a week. 2 3s, 3s 2s. I tried to create the versatility to be able to be done. That is awesome. But then one piece was missing. So I had the PowerPoints and I had the training or the tools for the participants. But what started happening is I was giving this information to trainers, and then they were trying to change it back to their way of thinking. And I was like, what's going on? I had one, he was a financial analyst, and he said, oh, I dropped the menu planning. I do an entire thing on menu planning and recipes, and I have a food challenge game that is done to engage the participants, to do debt-income ratio. And I went, you're not getting this. And so I realized I'm not doing a good job training the trainers as to why all of this psychology stuff has been put into place.
Of why it has to be there.
So the last thing I came up with was to train the trainer.
That's good.
And I now have Money and Me Online University, and there's about 3 hours of videos that will walk anyone who wants to be a trainer through the training process. That way we're not losing the quality of the content that was put together, and it was put together for a reason. So in my Train the Trainer model, I used to do it live here in Albuquerque, but now that it's grown to 7 states, I thought, you know, let's utilize technology, and I created the videos and the online format. But I asked people, how much does it cost to do a load of laundry at your local laundromat, washing, drying, you know, detergent? And my trainers were going, I don't know. And I said, that's my point. So I related to taking a missions trip. If a person's going to go on a missions trip, they want to learn about the culture. You want to learn the language. You
Right.
want to
Yeah.
learn the customs. You want to be sensitive to the culture. And when you go overseas or, maybe down to Mexico or wherever, you're not trying to change those people to our way of thinking. We're entering their world and we want to become part of their culture to benefit them.
Sure.
So now the Train the Trainer, the first third of the training is on cultural sensitivity.
Okay.
And we want people to understand what challenges are happening in the low-income world.
I see.
And so how much does it cost to do a load of laundry? And I have the trainers say, I don't know. And I say, well, that's my point.
Yeah.
I ask questions like, if you had one utility bill to pay and you could only pay one, which one would you choose and why?
That's a tough question.
And so in the middle income world, we're not faced with that challenge, but in the middle income world, it's so prevalent.
Yeah.
And this kind of came to me, again, this has been many years in development, but I was challenged at my own home one time. I have a daughter with Down syndrome. I had a 4-year-old and 3 stepchildren, and my life just felt completely out of control. And so I called a friend one day and I said, I'm just struggling and everything is a mess and I can't get in control of anything. And she said to me, Sarah, how is your laundry? And I was crying, oh, it's everywhere. There's piles everywhere, And she said, what I want you to do today is get in control of your laundry. And there's 5 steps to doing laundry. I don't know if you know that, but there's sort, wash, dry, fold, and put away.
And put away.
And so we teach that in Money and Me. We have PowerPoint slides to go with the 5 steps. And so that day I did my laundry. Now my life didn't change in the sense that I still had a 4-year-old, a daughter with a baby with Down syndrome, 3 stepchildren, but I felt more in control. So then I thought, all I need to do years later when I'm developing Money and Me is help people get in control of their laundry. And I started talking to my low-income families. I was just going to say, come on, let's get in control of your laundry.
Sure.
And they said, Sarah, do you realize how hard it is for us? We have to make plans to go to the laundromat. We might have to take a bus to get there. We have young children. If they don't have quarters, sometimes the change machines are not working at the laundromat, and this is what I found interesting. They will go to a car wash to get quarters to go to the laundromat to get their laundry done.
Wow.
It costs about $5. If you're doing each person's personal laundry plus your sheets, linens, towels, it can be $50 to $100 just to get your laundry done for the week. And so once I realized how challenging it is to get your laundry done, it humbled me in the sense where all I had to do was walk through my kitchen and start washing and drying and folding and put away.
Yeah.
And so I talk a lot about that
you right there got a true understanding of what someone is going through in a low-income situation.
And there's
That's
a church
amazing.
here in Albuquerque that does Laundry Love. It's a ministry, and it was started in California. But this church, their outreach budget is budgeting for people's laundry, and they go to the laundromat, and they just bless people and will pay and help them do their laundry once a month.
What a blessing.
And so when you go back to, if you're not even in control of your laundry, how are you going to be in control of your budget?
Sure.
And so teaching simple strategies of the smart shopping, getting in control of your laundry, I say just buy enough socks and underwear for each family member for a full week.
Okay.
And I look at the truancy rate here in our own public schools, and so much of it can go back to if they don't have clean clothes for their child for the day, they keep them home.
Right. They're not going to school.
So if we can help them, and then that has, like you said, the domino effect. They miss a day of school.
Sure.
They don't have money for laundry.
Just all adds
It can
up.
go
Yeah. Well, you know, I don't want to forget something that I mentioned before we went to the last
Absolutely.
segment. You talked about trying to maybe just change one bad habit.
One
That's a
thing.
start.
Yes.
And we talked about some things that you work on. Let's say they just give up cigarettes for an entire year. That's a significant monthly amount that they're putting out money for. What about people that are thinking their situation can be taken care of if they just continue to borrow? It's, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. I mean, a lot of people that aren't even in a low-income situation
They
are
do
doing that, but I
this,
can only
yes.
imagine that for people in the low-income basis, it can cause some catastrophic results.
Absolutely. Once you start borrowing, it's very hard to get out of that hole, especially if you don't have a significant income coming in. And so you have to look at first changing the habits. What are they spending it on? And have them look at needs versus wants. There are 2 places in the country that are Christian organizations that can help consolidate debt, that will work with the people and not cost them more to get out of debt.
Wow, that is great.
And so we reference that as well in the curriculum, because if they continue going to the payday loans or the microloans or the pawn shops, that's not going to help them.
Sure.
And so we do teach strategies for making a payment plan and getting out of debt, but we also offer to organizations that I have vetted that will help. Some organizations will charge to do this, and these places actually get grants. I think they might even be nonprofits, get loans, because that's their mission, is to help people consolidate debt.
Great.
Yes.
Tell us about some of the biggest challenges you've had, whether it's getting other organizations to understand that this could be something, let's say a church that could take on and be able to help people, and as actually another ministry for the church, or challenges from the participants that are going through the program. Tell us about some of these.
So it's all going to the churches. What I have found is that they have a great heart and they want to help.
Yeah.
But just like any outreach program you're going to do, it takes work. And one of the biggest challenges is, now to go to the flip side, the participants who need this don't see that they need this and acknowledge it.
Okay.
So when I was the director at Love Inc. and we had a helpline, we had people calling for food and furniture. And we would say, oh, we have a class on money management. Would you be interested? No, I don't need it. And so then we would say, well, you could get a gift card, maybe it was $20 for gasoline or groceries. Okay, then I'm interested.
Sure.
So
There's some incentive
it's
there.
unfortunate that you have to incentivize the information that's going to change a person's life.
Yeah.
But that's our reality.
But at least you have identified that is something. Once you get that foot in the door, then you receive the education, and God will do the rest. And so, how important is God in this whole process?
Oh, he's the foundation. For one, the program, this has been a walk of faith from day one. When I created a budget worksheet 10 years ago, I had no idea that it was going to become a business in 7 states and still growing.
Well, that's amazing.
And it's just blown me away. The challenges from the business side, there's always going to be challenges, and there still are.
Right.
I do want to just mention how it came to be its own business, because I was director of a nonprofit when I was creating the curriculum. So if someone's like, how did that happen? A few years into it, after the workbook had been developed and we had the money kit, I didn't have all of the training in place. I had a large business say, we want to buy this. And I went, it's not for sale. I was, giving it to the churches. We had a grant paying for it. But I went to the board of directors at that time of Love Inc. And I said, how do you figure this out? That was one of the challenges.
Okay.
And they said, Sarah, you have been the intellectual property behind it. It was above and beyond your director job description to create this program. So we did a legal agreement where, in a sense, they gave me all intellectual property and allowed me to form the Money in Me business.
Okay.
And that was, I'm trying to remember even what year that was, but it's been several years. And then I've worked on getting a trademark that is still in the process, copywriting all the information. The business side of stuff, if anyone owns their own business or running a nonprofit, you know the challenges are
There's quite a few
always
steps
present.
that you got to follow.
And there's still, you know, things that creep up that you have
Yeah.
to figure out how to deal with.
Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to find out about what your vision is for Money and Me. Maybe be able to share with people how they can obtain the materials of a church is
Great.
interested in doing this, or another ministry. But we'll be right back, so don't go away.
Hi, this is Pat Robertson. For over 33 years now, Sun Broadcasting has been sending out the gospel message with Christian programming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we at CBN are proud to be a part of the Sun Broadcasting family. Blackie Gonzalez and Annette Garcia were dear friends of our ministry, and we now want to encourage everyone in New Mexico to get behind Ted Gonzalez and the rest of the management staff and prayer partners by joining the Gideon's 300 fundraising project for the brand new studio with needed equipment. Many of you have already joined, and over $190,000 has been raised toward the goal of $300,000 for the studio and $150,000 for new equipment. And there's still $270,000 left to go to reach their goal. And I pray that you will join me in making your best financial gift possible. Construction has already begun, and the folks at Sun Broadcasting are believing God for a mighty miracle, because KCHF, it strives to provide the best in quality Christian and family entertainment, teaching, news, and children's program. And it's always already been named Television Station of the Year by the National Religious Broadcasters. So we stand together with our dear friends in New Mexico to help the Gonzalez family and those at Sun Broadcasting to cover the pueblos, villages, and cities in beautiful New Mexico. Thank you, and vaya con Dios.
Well, we're back with Sara Money with the organization Money and Me. And before we visit once again with Sara, we want to remind you, if you're in need of prayer today, our prayer partners are manning our lines and looking forward to being able to join you in prayer, going to the Lord and agreeing for God to provide that answer that He has. Our prayer line is 345-4165. And so we want to encourage you today to give us a call. We have such a faithful group of prayer partners, many that have been coming for over 20 years to pray with people. And I know that you'll be blessed if you allow them to be able to pray with you and join you in your petitions before the Lord. So, Sara, as we went to that break, we were talking about some of the challenges, but what is your vision for Money and Me as it continues in the future?
Well, God's given me a big vision.
Amen.
And it is kind of scary, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I see Money and Me becoming the #1 financial literacy program in the United States for low-income people.
Wow.
And when I look at so many other curriculums out there, and again, I don't want to knock any of them, they are great. But what I've really tried to do is develop a system that provides the tools for the participants, the training for the trainers, and then the PowerPoints, the technology that an organization can be up and running in a minimal amount of time. They can use volunteers,
Right.
They can use staff people. I tried to create the mindset that it's duplicatable and effective. I've seen lives changed, and so we'll just see what God has in store, but it's a little scary to
Well-
wonder how this is all going to come together.
Well, you know, when God gives you that type of vision, I think there's a great reason for it. I mean, we hear so many times about people that are in a situation, and you know, you're thinking, okay, well, that can only be for about 5 years, and then you see them in another 5 years, and they haven't gotten out of that low-income situation. In a lot of cases, things have gotten worse because maybe they just don't have certain techniques, skills, information. A lot of times is lacking, or as you said before, maybe just taking the time to see what is coming away from the income that they do have available, that they're using, that they don't really need to, and just by doing that and actually being proactive rather reactive to everything, that's going to be significant. So we pray that you not only obtain that vision of God, but we know that God is going to do some mighty things. Tell us about some success stories from the program.
So as I mentioned, one lady was saving $400 a month because she stopped going to the convenience store and renting movies and buying chips and soda every day.
Okay.
I've seen people stop smoking. My college, no, it wasn't the college, I think it was somewhere in Illinois. They did something with teens last year, and I'm working on a teen edition, but they had all their teens come in, and it was part of this whole camp that they did, and they did financial literacy as one component of it, and all the teens came back and they said that was their favorite part of the whole camp, was the financial literacy that they had done.
Yeah.
Up in Colorado, we had a couple, we talk about extra income. So when a person gets an income tax refund check or something else, we want them to plan for that before they get it. And so we ask them questions, do you still owe money? Do you want to give to a nonprofit? Do you want to give to a friend or family member? How much do you want to save for yourself? And we go through the questions. Well, a couple up in Colorado ended up receiving a large inheritance a few months after this happened. They didn't even know that that was coming after they had gone through the program, and it enabled them to buy a home and get into a house.
Wow.
We've seen people just start saving money and be able to make down payments on houses. And so
that's
life-changing.
Yeah, that is. You mentioned 7 other states that are participating in the program. Are there some near to New Mexico?
Colorado.
Okay.
I have New Jersey, Alabama, Kansas, Illinois, and Ohio.
Wow, they really are spread out across the country.
They are, and the way that happened, because people are like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
I've started becoming a national speaker at a poverty conference once a year.
Okay.
And so all these organizations that are learning better strategies to work with people in poverty come to this conference. And so I do one of the breakout sessions.
Okay.
And so I'm starting to get customers all over the country looking at the program.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier about trying to work with corrections department because it's one thing to work with people that are in a low-income situation, but how about those people that are just going to come out of being incarcerated and then they're just out on their own? And man, what a valuable tool to be able to have all of these things that you put together in the program for them to be able to just really start looking, how can I lead a productive life? How can I spend wisely? And how can I move from no job and being incarcerated into a productive member of society?
Something that was in the works, and again, I don't exactly know what happened, but up in Grants, I went and I talked to Core Civic, which is the prison up in Grants.
Okay.
And the vision that they had is they were going to be working with the family members on the outside teaching Money and Me, and then they were going to be teaching Money and Me to the people that were incarcerated. So when they were reunited with their family, they were all on the same page for handling their money.
That would be great.
So it may still happen,
Okay.
but things take time. That
Sure.
would be a great prayer, is
Yeah.
that, if the person that's incarcerated is learning, and they're learning the language, and they're learning the envelopes, and they're, all the
Yeah.
little stories that we go through, the language we're teaching them, and then the family is going through the same thing, when they're reunited, it's going to go so much smoother.
Yeah.
So that would be more successful.
Well, encourage our audience to hold that in prayer.
Thank
And,
you.
the fact that you work for the state for some years. I also worked for the state for a period of time. Bureaucracy is not a quick-moving
No, it's not.
mechanism.
So it could still happen, and God, yeah, the challenge that I've tried to do is, I was used to being able to fill orders of, 20, 30, 40 at a time. And then my orders, like for the community college in Illinois, it's 120 or 130 at a time. So I'm increasing my capacity to be able to fill large orders.
Yeah.
But because we do the kits and the books, it's an increment thing
Sure.
to make sure that I have all those pieces in place.
So can people come alongside of Money and Me to be able to help with the materials that you provide?
Well, right now I haven't had that need. I've been sustaining and growing
That's awesome.
as I can. Yes,
Okay,
so I
sure.
haven't had to take out a loan myself. Well, I put my own money in the business to start it, and right now it's growing. But it's organizations that would like to help, and
Okay.
so the way they would get involved is they would need to buy. Well, first they can just do what I call is a product preview package. If someone's interested and they go, we just want to check it out,
Yeah.
they can go online and order their workbook and kit, and we
Okay.
ship it to them. If they're local, I'd be happy to meet them somewhere, because I'm local, and save on shipping cost, just to get an idea of what it looks like.
Sure.
If they want to move forward, I do have nonprofit pricing, and then the business pricing. They can get an individual license, and it's good for 1 year, and it gives them access to all of the PowerPoints. It's for one person to do the online train the
Okay,
trainer.
I get it.
And then organizations can get what I call an organizational bundle, where they buy 10 workbooks and kits to start. They could get a 3-year license, which then brings their cost down for workbooks and kits. They get training for one person, but then they can just purchase additional training.
Okay.
And then they get the license to use all of the PowerPoints.
Wow.
So and again, that's been a challenge, the business side of it. How
Sure.
do you set up payments online and all of that kind of
Right.
stuff? But getting there, and I've had lots of support and help to do that.
That is awesome. And so do you envision that more and more states will come along?
I do, yes. So
Okay.
I just spoke last month in Atlanta, Georgia, just a few weeks ago.
Okay.
The breakout session I did, I had 39 people ask for more information.
Awesome.
I had 8 or 9 purchase the product preview package, and they're all over.
Yeah.
So we'll just see what happens.
But I think it's significant to understand the time that we're in, where so many different ministries, they want to be able to feed people, and we definitely need to make sure people are
Absolutely.
eating and
Absolutely.
they're not going hungry. But if you're just continually feeding them, and it's the same people coming because they can't purchase and that type of thing, and you're not doing anything to get them out of that situation, well, people can make what they want of that situation and decide what they want to do. But I would imagine that our churches and ministries that want to be able to start doing even more,
Yes.
and trying to get people to where they become productive,
Yes.
where once they get back on their feet,
Yeah.
they can help those others and become servants to others as God wants us to do, and be able to thrive and do more for their family,
Yes.
give better education to their kids, be able to have some of the nice things, that all of us want to be able to have. And it's it just, I believe we're in a time where people want to be able to do things, and the easy thing, and I'm not saying it's easy, maybe that's the wrong word, but okay, we're going to provide, and we're going to go ahead and feed the hungry every Saturday,
Yeah.
and you need to do that because there's people
Absolutely.
with that need. But if you can incorporate being able to work with people so that they can see that maybe there's just some bad habits, or there's, because you're not organizing yourself, that you're continuing to stay in that situation. I really do believe God wants us to help, and wants
Yeah.
people to move out of being always in a low income situation or no income, which is
Right.
even worse.
Exactly. Instead of just being a handout, how about be a hand up?
That's right.
And sometimes I think we don't always measure success when we're looking at food pantries by how many more pounds we're serving or distributing. It might be a measure of success if we had to do less every year because
right.
people
Yeah.
were becoming self-sufficient
Sure.
and they are able to take care of themselves and their own family
Right.
without relying on others. And the poor are always going to be with us. We always
We
want
know
to be
that,
helping
yes.
them. But are we helping them when we're just giving them every week instead of helping them
Yeah.
help themselves?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and we can give them tools.
Tools.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Tools for success.
Yeah. Well, how do people find out more about the program? What is the website? And
So the website is moneyandme.cash, C-A-S-H, and so
Okay.
they can go online and there's videos if people want to look at participant videos, trainer videos. If you wanted to order a workbook and kit preview package or do the online training, the phone number is also there. They're welcome to call. As I grow the business, I have a person that's helping me do the bookkeeping and shipping.
Okay.
I also hired somebody, again, just a few hours a week right now, but she's starting to do my trainer follow-up phone calls and do my stories. If people want to just get on my email list to be connected,
Yeah.
maybe it's not there right now, but they can just go online and submit a little form, I want
Right.
to be on your email update list. And we do no more than 3 emails a month that you're not going to be blasted
Inundated.
with that, and it's just me and my other 2 ladies
Awesome.
doing it right now, so.
well, we thank you for coming and
Thank
sharing about
you.
Money and Me, Sarah. And we're just praying that God is continue to bless the organization, continue to grow the organization. And as He does, I know more and more people are going to be able to get a handle of their situation and move forward. So thank you for all that you're doing. And
Thank
we
you.
want to thank you for joining us today on God Answers Prayer. We are so blessed that God sends us people from all walks of life and share what they are doing for the family of God. I pray today that you'll consider sharing about this program with someone who needs it, and I know that God is going to bless that. Thank you for joining us today on God Answers Prayer. Shalom, shalom.
Your financial support is appreciated. Go to P.O. Box 4338, Albuquerque, New Mexico 87196. Call us today at 505-345-1991 or go to sunbroadcasting.org.